just be mindful that even if you may think something is silly or not deemed as an emergency, to that person, it is. In that moment, to that person, it is the worst day.
To anyone who's not in the EMS field, what would be one thing that you deem is so important that everyone should know?
It's completely changed my whole idea of what life is and what we take for granted sometimes. I've witnessed my mom and my dad go through that journey, working through whatever they had together. And so when I saw that, it made me realize that everyone's going through something, and how you grow from that will build you to the person that you are today. If you're struggling right now to think about, I don't know what I want to do with my life, I feel like I'm lost, I feel like all my friends are going, every time I go on social media, someone's getting married, someone's having kids, someone's starting a new house, someone's starting a new business, and I'm here alone in my room and I'm not doing any of those things. If you feel like that, my message to you is...
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mindset Journaling podcast. My name is Vincent. I'm your host for today. Here we deep dive into the unique mindset of our incredible guests, uncovering insights and experiences that will help inspire you and elevate your mindset. Today we are joined by Daniel.
Hello.
Welcome, Daniel.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So we talked off camera, obviously, but who is Daniel?
Oh, that's a great question. Who is Daniel? I do like that question. I would say Daniel is someone who loves his family very much. Daniel is a musician. Daniel likes to travel and seek new adventure. And I think Daniel is someone who never stops learning. I think that's me, right? I don't know.
You tell me.
I don't know.
I'm not Daniel.
But I think that describes me as a whole summary.
Daniel?
Yes.
Paramedic. EMS.
Yes.
What does EMS stand for?
Emergency Medical Services.
Got you. Okay. So, how long have you been doing this again?
I've been paramedic for just about 6 years.
Just about 6 years.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for your service, number one.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I appreciate it.
Doing this now for basically 6 years. How has this line of work affected you mentally, physically, and spiritually?
So it's definitely changed my whole perspective of life. And for people that are watching this right now that have or know people that are in the same profession, they can kind of share the same kind of maybe insight that I'm sharing right now. But it's completely changed my whole idea of what life is and what we take for granted sometimes, and how precious and short life can be. So I would say mentally, it's challenged me to go through these thoughts, to go through this thought process of what life means to me, and to be more aware of my everyday living and how I interact with people. I would say spiritually, I come across different people, different types of populations of patients every single day, from different demographics, different types of religion or cultures they come from. And through that exposure, I get to see what brings them joy. And spirituality is one that connects to a lot of people that I see on a daily basis. So to me, that really captures me and resonates with me, because I say, wow, like that really brings a lot of people together in those tough situations, for sure.
What is one, so give me an example of like a specific scenario, scene that made you like, that shifted your perspective.
Okay. Of the job or just
in life? Anything.
Anything. Okay.
Surprise me.
Well, one call, there's always going to be calls, and a lot of paramedics watching this right now can probably relate to this, or any first responder for that matter. There's always going to be a couple of calls in your career that always stand out with you forever, and that doesn't necessarily change. But for me, it was actually a very simple call. And what I mean by simple, I just mean it wasn't one where there was a lot of dynamic changes in the patient's condition. It was just a call of someone who was in the process of being diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis. And so it's a very life-altering diagnosis to go through.
What is MS?
Multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a degeneration of neurogenic function, essentially. So essentially, over time,
you're losing your functionality?
Yeah, there could be paralysis that happens, and obviously the degree of paralysis and how far it spreads and how fast it develops changes based on the patient's condition. But essentially, you lose the mobility and the speech function and everything else that comes with everyday living in a very slow degrading process. Like I said, sometimes it could be fast. So it was for this individual that was going through that diagnosis. And this patient really stuck to me because I realized how much of the basic things that we take for function, such as just moving our hands or walking or getting our clothes and going to use the washroom just on our own daily basis, unfortunately, they had a tough time be able to do on their own. So that's really opened up my mind. Maybe it's not what you may have expected of the, the blood and a lot of the significant trauma, the gory stuff, but it was just that moment of just really connecting with that person and realizing like, wow, like this person used to do all the daily things that we do on a daily basis, but now their life is completely changed because of this diagnosis. So it was really tough to kind of see, but it's definitely one that stuck with me.
We always take for granted the things we do every day until we can't do them no more.
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah,
nothing as crazy as being diagnosed with MS.
Mm-hmm.
But when I first 2019, I fractured my ankle playing basketball.
Okay.
And ever since I fractured my ankle, and like, I was like, yo, walking is like, it's tough, it's hard.
Yeah, it does.
And like, I had to go through like rehab and like training to even walk again.
Right.
Not necessarily like walking the same way, but like, it takes time, it takes effort to build up that muscle again. Or for example, even when you're sick,
Mm-hmm.
the most common one, when you're sick and you can't breathe through your nose.
I know. It's a small realization that we, in that moment feels awful. And it's amazing that you have that insight. And anyone else has ever wear a cast, for example, with what you've said, it's uncomfortable, right? The way you just simply take a bath or shower completely changes. You feel so uncomfortable until the time you can remove it. So now imagine someone, not even just MS, anyone that goes through a major accident and has to kind of go through the rehab of learning how to walk, of learning how to eat, of learning how to overcome that illness or condition, to become the person they once were before, right? And I think that journey itself to me is very inspirational to see people go through that. But seeing people go through that on the field has opened up my perspective.
Being a paramedic for 6 years now, I can only imagine the crazy scenarios, situations you've been put through.
Yes.
And all the interesting calls, memorable calls.
Yeah.
I guess you could say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, with being a EMS, it also comes with like a lot of like stress sometimes, right?
Yes.
So I want to ask you, how do you handle stress in your daily life and in the work?
Oh man, I love that question. I love that question because I think, especially in the first responder field itself, we are taking the right steps of recognizing the importance of dealing with stress and mental health. When someone asks me how I deal with stress, I always like answering that question because every day I'm learning new ways on how to deal with it in a healthy manner. So for me personally, I'm very blessed and fortunate. I grew up in a household where I was really close with my mom and my dad, and I still very much am. And shout out to my parents. But they really stress the importance of talking, using your voice. And what I mean by that is just communicating how you feel. And I remember as a kid growing up, it was a very weird time, like being 6 years old, 7 years old. How do you communicate your emotions? And I'll never forget, my mom always said to me, she's like, you just talk. You just share what's on your mind and never feel the fear of being judged. So bringing that back, every time I'm on a difficult call, I call my close family members and friends, the ones that know me and can resonate with me and been a part of my life for a long time, and I just share. I share whatever emotions I'm feeling, whether it's good, It's bad, it's sad, and it's angry. I know for people watching this might think, oh, that's a little bit cheesy. Like you just call up someone and that's how you deal with it. But I feel like it's the best stress relief. Second to that, um, one of my loves is music. I love music. I love everything about it. I love how it makes people feel. I love how it resonates with people. It always creates a new story. So I grew up playing the drums, and I was taught with my dad. And one of the things I do when I go home and I'm stressed out is I play the drums. It's my favorite thing to do, and like just creating new music. So between that and recently just taking new physical activity, going to the gym, going for long runs, putting all three of those things together has like benefited me. So that's how I deal with my stress. Um, but everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it.
I'm definitely not like you in a sense where I don't just call up people and just to talk to them.
Right.
Everyone's different, right? Everyone's
Yeah.
different. How I handle stress is like I write everything down. Like I'm a big thinker, but I need to put it on pen and paper and I just write out my feelings. I guess you verbalize it. What's the word? Not physicalize it.
Or maybe you internally process it, right?
Yeah.
More of you
There you
reflect
go.
on it maybe a little bit more.
Yeah. I'm a very to myself person.
Okay.
When I stressful situations, whatever, I like internally process it. And then once I understand it, then I'm like, okay, let me speak about it now.
Right. Right. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
I think that's actually could be a very good thing because you really reflect on how something made you feel. And I think that makes you stronger, right? If you just blur everything out without taking the time to process it.
It's like emotional control.
Right. And now are you really growing at that point? I don't know. Right? And that's the thing. So I think a healthy balance of both.
Because I don't want to, the biggest thing with me is like, I don't want to be so in the moment where I just blur out something I don't mean or like, I can't take back.
Right.
Especially if it's on recording, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's like, I need to be careful what I say because there are things that you can't take back.
Right.
Right?
It's true.
And that can like definitely ruin like relationships or like your people's perspective of you.
Right.
In your field, I know since you're always, well, not always, majority of the time it's like, actually, what are your typical calls?
Okay. Typical calls.
Typical calls.
Oh man. Okay. For all the paramedics and paramedic students watching this, I'm going to say the the magic word that we all hear every day. It depends.
Okay.
Depends. And I say that because it depends on what area you're in, what part of the city that you're in, what clientele is in that pocket or, that geography of that area that you're in as well. It changes. It changes. And also the season, right?
Oh, that makes sense.
So we're here in Canada and it's not the warmest, but here right now, for example, it would be a lot of flu season. So influenza, or we would see a lot of croup calls with young children or viral infections or that affect the respiratory system for kids. So we see a lot of that. That's the most generic answer. The other thing is too, battling with the cold. We also see cold related injuries and illnesses. So unfortunately, a lot of people that don't have access to shelter, they sustain a lot of cold related injuries. So we see a lot of that. So it just depends on where you're at in the season.
Do you like that though? Every day coming into the field.
Absolutely.
It's like,
yeah, it's exciting.
You don't have a set schedule. It's just whatever they throw at you.
What is that? And you know what? And I don't know if Vincent, you share with the audience, but even right now on this podcast, that was our approach, right? Like we just said, I'm just going to ask you any questions. You didn't tell me what they were.
Yeah.
And I just came in and whatever is coming at me, I'm answering just straight from me. And that's kind of how I approach for my work as well. Of course, I adhere to a lot of directives and stuff that we do to provide patient care, but just being open to the possibility that anything can happen, and doesn't matter how big or small the situation is, in that moment to that person, it is the worst day of their life. So I got to respect that. So whatever it is to them, that is their emergency.
What is like, give me an example. Like what was something so crazy to them, but to you was like, bro, why'd you even call?
It's hard to answer that just because even if I felt that way in the moment, I always ask, I always reflect on that. Genuinely, I do. And I would like to believe that a lot of paramedics here in where we live, in the area that we live, do that and they practice that every day. So I try not to go in there and say, "Oh, this was such a silly call. Like, why did you call?" But to them, like I said, it may have felt like the worst day of their life, even if someone stubbed their toe. So, I mean, for me, I had a person call simply just to say, "Hey, the remote is right there. Can you pick it up for me?" This individual was an elderly patient and had a hard time,
Moving, getting
moving
around.
around, mobility, and even seeing. And then I just happened to look at a picture. I was like, "Well, who's that handsome fellow?" And she started telling me about her husband of 60 plus years and how, he and her had such a special bond that every Friday and every Saturday they would watch TV together. And sure enough, that day was either a Friday or Saturday. And she missed that company. So even for me, I thought in that moment, wow, like just to move a TV remote, was there anything else? Um, I understood. I'm like, this person just needed someone there with them. And that's something we just take for granted sometimes. It was deep. That was deep. That was the deep part of the podcast, eh?
That was the
We're getting sentimental now.
We're getting sentimental.
Are you wearing your fuzzy sweaters, everyone?
Going back to the first question, besides perspective, being a paramedic, how has it built you as a character?
I would say it's made me just be more receptive to taking chances and risks in life. I would say.
Okay.
I would say before, I would say when I was like in my, when I was between the age of 15 to 18, I was more reserved or timid. But now this job has made me be like, you know what? Why not? Say yes. Even doing something like this, I never would thought I would be sitting here on these nice, soft, beautiful couches, but being just talking about what I find is inspiring and who I am as a person and the field I work in. So just take every opportunity. That's what it's done. It's made me it's built my character of just being more receptive to things, to not be so worried about, the consequences that may hold you back from doing something.
Were you always the type of person to worry about other people's perspective on you?
And cue, spill the beans. Here we go. No, I did. Open and honestly, yeah, I have. I've always been very worried about, and I think that's just like a normal thing for a lot of people experience, right? You never want to say the right thing, do the wrong thing, make the wrong decisions, do the right decisions, right? So growing up, um, especially into the field that I work in, for sure, I was a little more cautious about what I said because I was afraid or worried or concerned about what other people's perspectives might be on me or on what I'm doing. But that's completely changed. And that's changed not only because of the profession, but also for my personal growth and maturity. That's changed now because now I really live by, you know what? Someone always is going to appreciate for what you do, regardless if it's good or bad. You just have to go out there and find the good energy that is around you. That's it. So I really live by that for sure.
How I cope, or how I not think about other people's opinions on me, is like it's you only have one life, right?
100%.
So it's like you rather live it with the restrictions of other people's opinions,
Right.
or you just live it on your own terms.
Right.
There's a quote. It's like, we have two lives. The second one starts when we realize we only have one.
And I also think, to add to that, I think like if anyone watching right now, if you're anyone like me, you're on your bed, it's probably like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, however late it is, you're scrolling through your reels on whatever platform that you're on or using, and you're watching these inspirational videos where they're like, you only got one life, one opportunity, right? It sounds like I'm busting into
Only have one day. Your tomorrow's not guaranteed.
Yeah, exactly. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. And then in that moment, even right now watching this, you're like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Absolutely. And then tomorrow you start your day and you're like, it's going to be great. And then by 1 o'clock, you follow back to some routine or pattern that you're comfortable with. But I would say it's those moments where you're supposed to just take a step back. And a wise person once told me, in any setting that you're in, what they always do is they just take a step back and really take in the environment that they're in. Take in the shoot, take in right now where this mic is at, where you're at in retrospect to space and time. And, you know, whether you're in the office or you're doing something at work, just take a moment back and be like, wow, like what's really around you? And I think that makes you more present in the moment, but it also makes you appreciate life. Exactly what you said.
Yeah.
So I challenge anyone watching here right now, like, you know, to when you wake up tomorrow or whatever part of the day it is, really carry that forward for the next day and make it a habit and a routine, and it will change your perspective.
Living in the present. That's a big one.
That's a huge one.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to do, and it's especially in a time or for some people in positions where they have to worry about other things in life. There's no more time than now, than the present moment.
Yeah. Life is quick.
Life is quick.
Like, you don't know how quickly the day, the week, the month might feel long, but if you look back in retrospect, like, yo, I just blinked.
Yeah.
Yo, that was like high school.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. One minute you're there, then you're at a 10-year reunion, and you're like, oh my God.
10-year reunion.
You know what I mean? Then you're like, I'm this person now.
Yeah.
I'm going to the high school reunion. But like, no, like it does change and go by so quickly.
You know how like the older you get,
Right.
the more faster time goes,
Right.
in perspective. Because remember, when you're a kid, you think one day is like forever, or like 1 month. Oh my God, 1 month?
Mm-hmm.
I had to wait 1 month for Jimmy's birthday party?
Right.
That's a long time.
Right.
But I feel like when you get older, time goes by quicker just because, not because you have limited time, but you've lived longer compared to when you're a kid. Let's say you're 10 years old, you only live 10 years.
Right.
Now when you're 50, you have like 50 years, and 10 years is nothing.
Right.
Compared to that 1 month in a year.
You know, and it's interesting to say this one story that just popped up in my head, resonated with me, was actually seeing my younger cousin. And at the time he was in high school, and he came up to me, approached me. He said, hey, Daniel, I'm dating someone. And he was, you know, I forget what grade it was. And even parents watching this, I'm sure you can maybe relate or think about your own kids. You know, he told me, I'm like, okay, you know, that's great. How long? And he's like, oh, you know, it's only a month. And I remember his sibling being like, month? What is that? You just started like yesterday. And I remember looking at him, and I'll never forget this. I don't know why the story stuck with me so much. I remember looking at him, and he felt so defeated because in his head, that month wasn't just a month. It felt like so much longer. And as I took a step back and I reflected, I'm like, that's not just a month. Those are seconds. Those are minutes. Those are hours you spend talking, sharing your time with, communicating, thinking about, putting in the effort, planning for that one person. And those are minutes, seconds, and hours and milliseconds you'll never get back. So to us, we only say a month, but to them, to that person, it felt like the eternity. It felt like the moment, right? And so when we change that same mindset and we think about the now, the present moment, the now, these are in this very moment, seconds and milliseconds we can never get back. Yeah, so why not enjoy it? That's right. Why not enjoy it, right? And so that really resonated with me. And so I came in and I was like, you know what? A month ain't so bad. But it does change your perspective. And that's not just with relationships, that's with anything. Job opportunity, growth, employment, education, anything.
Yeah. I think having a definite timeline also changes your perspective on time as well.
Right.
I would say as well.
Absolutely. I think for me personally, and every student watching this can probably maybe even think about this as well. You look at a program or a job that you really want to do and you say to yourself like, oh, geez, it's going to take 2 years. And so in those 2 years, a lot of us just focus on just becoming whatever better version it is for that employment opportunity, which is the right thing to do. But we don't appreciate the growth in that. I would say aside from being a paramedic and growing in the 6 years, I've grown the most just going to school. It taught me that discipline. It taught me that ownership I needed on my own learning. It taught me that maturity I needed to have to get into the field. Like the journey is just as important as the destination. as cheesy as that sounds, but it's
It's
true.
true.
It's true. Hey, jinx. But it's true. Like, I think it takes you there, right?
Yeah, we always get, well, especially me, I get so caught up in the end goal, like, oh, I need to do this, I need to get this done. I have X amount of days, but then I need to stop doing that. But I've been better. We're working on it. But if we ever look back, all the hard times, the struggles, the late nights, those were the good times. Yes, you're trying to get somewhere, but getting somewhere doesn't mean anything if you have no story to it,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. You need that motivation to get you somewhere, right?
That experience.
I'll give you an example. If I asked you right now, what do you have planned for next year? What's your goal? Any goal. Any goal. Not even to put you on the spot, but
Wild.
what's your plan for next year?
What's my plan for next year?
Yeah, just in general. Anything.
Like grow the channel.
Grow the channel.
Yes.
Grow your field, grow the number of people that you have that you come in for interviews, right?
Uh-huh.
Amazing. So, what are you doing next week?
What am I doing next week?
Yeah, on this day next week at this time.
I have another interview coming up.
Right. So, do you see how your goals completely have changed? Your long-term goal is very vague on purpose, as a lot of people are, right? A lot of people right now would say, I want to grow my business. I want to work on how I can improve my finances. And the short-term goal is very specific, very detailed, goal-oriented, understandably, right? But I would say, instead of being detail and goal-oriented, which is important as well, enjoy the process that is going to take you till next week, right? Look at like, okay, in that time, I can better my channel between now and next week by learning how to make more creative edits, as an example, right? And that's, I think, part of the journey too, right? Being in the process, being in the moment. Recently in my life, and I would say in the last 2 to 3 years, the question I've always asked myself is, what is going to make me happy? The first thing I said, so when I plan my goals is, what am I doing this week? And is everything I'm doing this week going to relatively make me happy what I'm doing? So I'm going to work. I love being a paramedic. That makes me happy. I'm going to work. So that has changed a lot on on my goal set. So I really reflect and take account of my happiness and what I want to do.
Interesting.
But I can also hear my friends in my other ear saying you also have to be realistic with it too.
Yes.
So yes, you can say it makes you happy, but is it reasonable to obtain that? That's the question you got to ask. And if the answer is yes to both, then I think it's worth setting that goal and doing it.
Like there's like a popular term is like happiness doesn't pay the bills, or like well, it's something around that. But it's like,
right,
you can do what you love, but sometimes it's not. It's well, if we're talking purely finance,
right?
It's like you might do what you love, but it doesn't necessarily always mean it can pay the bills. So sometimes you do have to do what you don't like.
It's a delicate dance.
Yeah,
that's for sure. It is. It's a delicate dance, and it's one that I think a lot of people try to think about on how to do both, how to make the big coin, but also sustain their happiness. That's the thing a lot of people work for. But someone like myself, I can just speak for me. My goal wasn't so much about making the big coin. For me, it was more keeping my happiness in what I do and just being comfortable. And what I deem as comfortable is probably very different from anyone else.
As a paramedic?
Yeah.
Definitely very different.
Yeah. Like my comfort to me is just, honestly, just wearing the right sweatpants. Like, like I know it sounds so lame, but like getting something comfortable in at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Got my nice little, in my nice little house with my nice little TV, and that's it. I don't need the fancy stuff with it. To me, that's what it is. But someone else might want a different perspective.
In your line of work, how do you stay positive, or how do you find joy in what you do? Because like you said, it always depends. Every day is different, right? So you don't know what you're going into.
You just gotta feel it. Like you just gotta feel it, and you just gotta be present in all those moments. So for me, how I find joy, I think a lot of people in a lot of jobs actually focus on the negatives. It's very easy to get caught up in the negatives and whatever you do.
Oh, so easy.
You come home from work, I didn't do as well, I didn't sell as much, I wasn't on my best game today, right? And a lot of people have those days, but negativity is very easy to latch on and focus on when your mindset is like that. But like, the rear mirror is a lot smaller than your front window. You know what I mean? It's very different. So I think I just actually harp on more of the joy. So did I help that sweet old lady today? And did I make her laugh? Absolutely.
And that's your day.
And that's my day. And I'm like, to me, I achieved my own happiness for that day. And it's good. And you can do it for anything, right? I challenge anyone that's watching, or even yourself, walk in the office and it's very common for a lot of people to say, hey, how are you? Good, good. And you walk away. Why not just walk in and be like, hey, how are you? And you say to them, you know what? Actually, I'm a little tired. How are you? Right? Engage in that conversation, because to them, it might make that day and you create that joy. I just find the joy in whatever I do and all the small things that I do. And I think that's what carries me forward.
Would you say what you just said right now also helps you avoid burnout?
I think so. 100%. Yeah, I've had the best shifts with my best friends. Yeah, like absolutely.
Because I know the burnout rate, especially for like paramedics, EMS, anything frontline, is extremely high.
Very
high, and that's why you guys are always like low staffed, or like the wait times are pretty long.
Right.
I remember one time I was working at a restaurant. I had to call 911 for the first time. I didn't know they could put you on hold like that. I was like, oh, okay. 10 minutes goes by. I'm like,
you're like, this is wild.
It's wild. Like the setting was, I'm supervising the restaurant, and then there was this one customer. I think it was the first time meeting someone else, like a blind date or something like that. I'm not too sure.
My bad. Wow, look at you.
No, not me. Like the guest. I'm working.
Oh, right. Sorry. Okay.
So, and I didn't know what was going on. And then like one of the servers came up to me and they were like, yo, I think this lady needs like, I think they were in their teens. And she was like, yo, I don't think this girl's okay. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like not breathing, not responding. We're like, oh, okay. Wow. We check up. She seemed fine. And then I was like, oh, everything's like fine. 5 minutes later, she's like, yo, like Vincent, I think you gotta call something. I'm like, what do you mean? We go up, she's not responding.
Oh no.
Like she's like still, she's breathing, but she's just unresponsive. I don't know what happened to her, but like she was just unresponsive. Maybe like shock or something.
Okay.
But I was talking to the dude, the guy. He's like, yeah, I think it's like their first time meeting. I don't know, they were just talking, and she just like went statue mode.
Wow.
And then I had to call 911. And I'm like, okay. Calling 911. I'm stressing, like, hey, what's your emergency? Oh, this is what happened. Okay. We're going to put you on hold. I'm like, oh, okay.
Great.
Thank you. I'm sitting in the office for 10 minutes straight. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Someone be on the way. I'm like, oh, okay. So I was on hold for 10 minutes and now someone's on the way. I'm like, okay. But yeah, I was just relating to that.
Yeah, it's there's definitely burnout. I've seen unfortunate colleagues subdued to that. But I like to say one thing I'm very proud about, at least within the paramedicine field, is that a lot of colleagues have been very supportive of people saying, I'm just supporting our other colleagues. They've been very supportive. And whenever someone said, you know what, I can't do this job anymore, I will, with confidence, can say that almost all of my colleagues have supported that person who walked away. No one ever said to anyone, it's a little bit silly. Why are you walking away? You're weak. No, we've all been very supportive of each other. I think that's the nice thing. I think that's what kind of brings the support, because if you do decide to say, you know what, this job is not for me, you have support and you have the love and you have the care from everyone else around you. So that's one thing I'm really proud about in this field. I'm really honored with it. And I don't know where other parts of the world are like for helping their first responders, but I can say here we're growing, we're evolving in a very positive direction. So
I feel like you guys need to have that tight knit community because all the trauma, the experiences you've gone through. Like, if you just handle it, think about it all in yourself, you're like, well, to me, like, you would go sane.
Right. And we do. I would say we share a lot. Only from what I've seen, definitely with other paramedics and nurses. You know, you can always spot us in a room. You'll never not know who's a nurse or a paramedic, because we're always probably talking, and we're probably one of the most extroverted in the room. But no, it's because exactly what we said, we were sharing. That's how some people deal with the stress, as I said earlier. They share and they can relate and they can understand what you're going through.
Mm-hmm. Quick question. This summertime, I met a teacher, a young teacher, and we were just talking about standard first aid and everything, right?
Okay.
Tell me if this is true or not, but for example, if there was a situation that happened,
okay,
and you were, let's say, the only person who knew first aid, but you weren't comfortable doing it, or like, for example, you're in shock, like you don't know what to do, and that person ends up going to the hospital or like passing away, are you incriminated?
First off, I taught you first aid.
Okay.
Let the audience know.
Okay.
I taught you.
Okay, yeah.
So Vincent, I'm gonna ask you. No, but and I hate using it. It depends on the situation, right? Like, depends on your setting. There's a lot of questions, right? Like, did that first aider's life feel that their care would be obstructed? Did they feel that their life was in danger? Did they feel like they were experiencing a medical illness, crisis, or condition? It depends on your setting and where you're at. Typically, as a whole, outside of first aid or any healthcare profession, I can say generally, can't speak for all specifics, but if you're trained to do to the level of training that you're accredited or certified or licensed to do, you're usually, for the most part,
responsible,
or, and as you mentioned, legally
obligated,
protected in a sense. But it once again, that word depends quite significantly, because it does matter on how, are you a first year nursing student? Are you in your last year? Are you a resident? Or did you just finish your med school? So many factors that matter to it.
Okay, so there's not like a definite answer for that.
Yeah, and it varies between state to state, province to province, country to country.
Okay.
What someone in, for example, just thinking of my own heritage and background, someone in Italy is trained in first aid, and what they can do, their legal responsibility may be very different there than it would, let's say, in Canada or United States. So it just depends.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, and I can
soften the blows just a bit.
just a bit. It matters. It does matter on where it is, and so to give you a definite answer of just one, it's hard to say.
Okay. Because what if that person is like not confident in their ability?
Yeah, that's a big one. I would say, outside of medicine, right? That can apply for a lot of things. What if you're a really good car salesman, but you're just not confident in selling that one particular vehicle? So what would you do in that case? If
car salesman or anything, the scenario I gave?
Yeah, or any scenario. Like, what if you're just not confident in a skill? What would you?
It has to be. What's the situation though?
Right. It goes back to the depends question.
Oh, okay.
But like, what if you're not comfortable in sales? So the question I would think to myself is, what can you do to improve so you're not lacking confidence? I think that should be the focus on, more so of, will I get in trouble? Right? Think about, like, am I confident to do the skill, and do I know when to do it?
That makes sense.
Yeah. I know I gave you a very like structured, protected answer, but it's true though. It really does. It does matter, and does depend on where you're at.
Being a paramedic now, what was one thing you wish you knew before you became a paramedic?
Oh, geez. I would say your life pattern and structure is going to change. Your hours of work is going to be completely different from everyone else. The way you plan things is going to change entirely. So when you meet with your friends or go out to see your parents or your family outings, everything's going to change. And the way you plan is just going to change simply to it. It's not that you're not going to stop, but the way you think about and how you plan is going to be completely different. For example, my shifts are usually 12 hours. And let's just say I'm done at 6 p.m. Technically, someone can call and request an ambulance at 5, at 5:59, 48 seconds. And then I would have to go. So that dinner plan I had, let's just say at 7 or 6:30, because I thought I was going to be done at 6, obviously is going to have to change. So now the way I structure things is very different. So the way I plan things appropriately is completely different. So that's the only thing I would say. The Christmas, the holidays, and the night shift work. That's the big one.
The night shift work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just being being awake at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., hours that I've never were awake before in majority of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm doing this potentially 5 nights in a row, or 3 or 2. So that is a different perspective. I would say to myself, junior Daniel, just be aware of that, and just be aware about how you plan things, because that's going to have to change to the schedule that we're now working on.
To anyone who's not in the EMS field or have first aid or standard first aid, what would be one thing that you deem is so important that everyone should know related to that?
Honestly, going back to what I was saying, every emergency, just be mindful that even if you may think something is silly or not deemed as an emergency, to that person, it is.
Mm-hmm.
To them, it is the worst day of their life, whatever they're experiencing, whether it's related to mental health and you can't physically see the injury. To that person, it is debilitating to the point that they can't do the things they once loved.
Perspective, yeah.
Perspective, 100%. And it's funny you say that word perspective, because I think I grew up with that perspective. I had a brother who passed away of cancer at a very young age.
My condolences.
Thank you. And I've witnessed my mom and my dad go through that journey of working through whatever they had together. And so when I saw that, it made me realize that everyone's going through something, and how you grow from that will build you to the person that you are today. So I would say, if you're going through that, or you're thinking about how I treat or how I do the technical stuff of anything, not even just medicine, just really be in perspective on what you're doing. And like I said, to that person, it is the most stressful day in their lives.
Yeah.
So I gotta give a shout out to my mom for that one, because she taught me at a very young age, and I couldn't quite comprehend what losing a child is like. So when I saw that, it really opened up my perspective.
Which cases are harder? Would you say it's mental, dealing with mental illnesses,
Right.
or physical cases like bleeding out,
Yeah.
someone lost their arm, etc.? Like,
Right. I feel, this is my own personal perspective. Someone once asked me, dealing with severe trauma case, significant blood loss, any sign of trauma, blunt, a laceration, whatever the case may be, how do I react to it versus like something I can't see, or which one's easier to deal with? And I always say a physical injury is a lot more simpler, or I think more practical to deal with. I personally find the biggest struggle for me is the mental health. And it's something that I think as a society across the world, we're slowly getting better and at showing awareness of it. But I think it's something that we still need so much work on, and we need so much advocacy, and we need to, really show our voice and how important it is. And I think those are one of the most tougher calls to deal with, because I've witnessed people, lives completely change because of what they feel about themselves or what other people have told them. And someone took the time, if they got connection to the right resource, to better themselves mentally, they could have been in a different state than when I've responded to them in my uniform. So mental health, I think, is definitely the most challenging one. I think it's something we need work across the world, and it's something I'm very passionate about. And I think that's something even here today, anyone watching, we should be pushing forward to making sure that it's better for us, but also for our future kids and future generation ahead.
Yeah. I would say I agree with your answer.
Yeah,
For for example, physical cases, like, you know what to do.
absolutely.
But like that's like textbook work. Like,
Right.
you know, like, oh, someone got shot, okay, clean it, put this, whatever.
Right.
But for mental health, that's a very sensitive
Right.
topic, and you got to really watch what you say.
Well, think of the way I think it, so everyone can relate. Think of like a very famous sport that you like, right? Imagine that sport in the finals. So whether it's the championship league or, the Super Bowl, and imagine yourself in the star player's position. So you're the famous quarterback. You got to make that one throw that will change the whole entire game and make your team win your championship. That's how I feel as a paramedic when in those moments. In those moments, I just go. All my training kicks in, and I say, you know what? Like you said, the gunshot, I think about, okay, where has it entered? Is there an exit wound? How much blood has been lost? What other complications can I expect? How's the airway? How's their breathing? How's their circulation? What do we do now? So you just go into that athlete mode. Even now talking to you, I can already feel myself
Pumped up, you're fired.
Yeah. But it's the same way, right? It's the same way an athlete does it. But for mental health, right? There's just so many things you have to take in consideration.
Yes.
That you quite simply won't have control over, right? And that's the tough part.
Yeah, control. It's harder.
It's harder. Yeah, it's harder, and it just doesn't mean necessarily control is a big scary, like the C word, right? Like sometimes it can be viewed negatively, but sometimes in that situation scene, that's what people are looking for. Some people are looking that someone can take control, lower the anxiety for everyone. So sometimes you have to be that voice of reason to be like that and say, hey, everyone, time out,
calm down, take control.
Take control. Situation.
Yeah.
Well, I got a question for you.
Go for it.
This podcast is not going to end without me asking.
Go.
So something I challenge people watching this, or even yourself, is we talked about being present in the moment and how we plan and how we organize, right?
Okay.
But I would ask yourself, if you're ever stuck on what you want to do, you're not sure what you want to do, just ask yourself this question: why? Why are you doing the things that you are right now? So let me ask you. You approached me.
Yes.
And you said to me, hey, I would like you to be on my podcast. Why?
Why?
Yeah.
So, as Daniel alluded to before, like he did teach, he recertified me in my first day.
CPR certified. If anyone's dying or in dying need.
Okay. Anyways, had to get my standard first aid recertified, so signed up and everything. But I came in, and then you were like, "Oh, are you here for recertification?" I'm like, "Yeah." And you're like, "Oh, okay, don't worry, like just sit down here." And I thought you're a really good teacher, and I liked your energy, I liked your vibe.
Thank you.
I liked your teaching style. You're very open and passionate about what you're saying. You're talking.
I hope. Thank you.
And you connected with people. I think that's the biggest thing. You go to school, you talk to all these teachers and prof. Well, majority of them, they'll just teach the teach. It's like looking off a PowerPoint presentation and just reading off bullet points, versus someone who was like, they know what they're saying, they can relate. Yeah. They engage the audience. Like, Jimmy, what do you think about what I just said? Like, do you agree? Right. So I think your teaching style, like the way it was, your teaching style, your personality, and how passionate you were about what you were talking about was the three things that really made me drawn to you.
Oh, thank you. No, but I really do appreciate that. And I think we need to start asking ourselves the why, right? If you're not happy with the current job that you're doing, then why are you doing it? Why not go for another job that you're interested in? Why not go to school? And then if you sit there and you say, well, I can't go to school because I have 2 kids, or, I have a lot of financial burden or expenses I'm worried about I can't pay. So why not do it later? What's holding you back? And I see that all the time. And through my educational journey, I've been with people and I've met with people and been alongside them in their classes where they're in their, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and they're doing their first year university course.
Respects.
And why not? What is holding you back? And that's what I'm really trying to emulate, and that's what I want to share, and that's my main message I hope I can bring today. And people watching, why not? Why not go and do something that you wanted to do? What's holding you back? The first initial steps are always scary, but once you get rolling on what you're doing, why not? Why not do that if that's going to make you happy? Because everything else will flow right after. And I'm very passionate about that. And if there's one thing I can add, if you're struggling right now to think about, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I feel like I'm lost. I feel like all my friends are going, every time I go on social media, someone's getting married, someone's having kids, someone's starting a new house, someone's starting a new business, and I'm here alone in my room and I'm not doing any of those things. If you feel like that, my message to you is, 1, you are loved. Don't forget that. And I'm saying it to you if that means anything. A random person from Canada is telling you you're loved. So that says a lot. But also 2, you should ask yourself on what makes you happy and what are you good at? And if you think to yourself, well, I'm not good at anything, that's nonsense. If you listen this far into the podcast and me yap this long, you're a great listener. But it's true though, you are. So right there and then, you've already found a starting point on what you want to do. So write down the things that you love. And then once you see that, then those things make you happy. And that is how you find your dream job and your dream success. And that's how you become successful. Just like that. I wish I was as easy as a blueprint.
You should be a civics and careers teacher at that point. Grade 10?
It might be in the motion. I don't know. I don't know. It might be. But no, and I've seen it with someone who teaches first aid, and as you saw, there's a lot of people in the class from high school who are high school students, and I've had those questions come up to me and be like, sir, I don't know what I want to do. And especially with the medical field, there's so many medical professions that no one talks about, but they do such rewarding work. And when I explained it to them, they were like, sir, I thought you were just chill like that, but that was amazing, thank you. They had no idea. And to me, that makes me happy, because then I gave them a sense of purpose and direction. And like I said, I've given them opportunity to be successful.
That's beautiful, man.
Thank you. Good. Unrehearsed, by the way. It's true. It's coming from here, and I mean that.
Do you have anything else you wanted to ask me?
I do.
Go for it.
I have one more question.
Okay.
Do you think regrets is the healthy growth needed in someone's life?
Whoa. Say that one more time.
Do you think having regrets or going through a situation that you may regret down the road is actually quite healthy to have in someone's life, or even in your own life?
I would say yes. But I say but because I'm assuming you're gonna make these decisions based on what you think the best action is, and not because you don't want to, or you're not intentionally doing this to make a bad outcome, for example. But besides choosing the right outcome for whatever you do, or choosing the best course of action, I would say yes, because it's a learning experience. You grow. Yeah, it builds your character. It's learning. Like, the number one teacher of life is just failure. If someone just succeeded all their life, they wouldn't have learned.
Absolutely.
And it wouldn't be that meaningful. Remember how I was talking about the journey, going through the journey to reach the destination rather than just reaching the destination is what makes it meaningful.
Right.
I would say the regret is part of life, as in it builds that character development to who you're eventually going to become.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
I think it's literally like the analogy I think of as a plant, when you're growing a plant, you got to nurture it. You got to care for it. When you're first taking care of your plants, you may pour too much water, a little bit of water. So some of the leaves die.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then, I know, right? As we're all surrounded by all these lovely plants, but like, no, some of them die. And then you learn like, shoot, okay, next time I'm going to only put this amount of water for it to grow. And then by the end of it, the plant flourishes into something that's beautiful.
It's progression.
It's progression, right? So I would say, I like asking this question because I truly think that the regrets or doing the wrong decisions in the moments in life is what is needed to make you the strongest person or the strongest version as you. We all know that. I don't think that's a message that's not preached or talked about on a daily basis. But I think sometimes we get so focused on not doing the wrong things, but it's okay. That's what makes you grow.
And that, it's like sometimes the fear of inaction too. Sorry, not the fear of inaction, the fear of taking action, that they don't want to regret it at the end of the day. Like, what decision is the right decision where it's like, I know 100% everything is going to be fine. Where
Right.
I feel like, honestly, in life, you don't know if every decision is going to be the right or
Absolutely not.
right or wrong one.
Absolutely.
I've said this a bunch of times, and probably all my podcast episodes now.
Yeah.
Probably sick of me hearing it, but I'll keep saying it. But my life saying, or what I stick by, is I'd rather have more regret taking action than being inactionable.
Yes.
And I think at the end of the day, I want to, when I'm old, having grandchildren, sitting in my rocking chair, I want to tell them the story or read them the book of Vincent on all the ups and downs, the roller coasters, all the life lessons I went through, rather than just, oh, I played it safe, or yeah, I went to work for 20 years and just flat lines. And
Right.
I'd rather have the book be 12 chapters, 500 pages, than one chapter, 50 pages.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's a book that's worth more reading
Yeah,
than just one page.
exactly.
I live by, learning so much through my own actions and what I have done in the past. And in the moment, it caused a lot of pain and it hurt, but it's grown me so much into the person I am today. So don't let yourself be afraid of that. I think it's good to go through those things.
It'll hurt for sure.
It'll suck.
It sucks.
It sucks.
Yeah. Sometimes it'll hurt so bad, you're like, I want to go back.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you think it's the right decision, it's growing you as a person, and you don't hate yourself, debatable on that part. Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
You're on the right path. You're on the right path. I feel that. I believe that.
I like that.
We like that.
We like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. No, but like really, you're on the right path.
Yeah.
It is. It's true. Yeah. You know what? That's a new caption. You're on the right path.
You're on the right path.
That's it.
Like for you, for example, you're a paramedic, all the crazy situations, like those are probably normal to you now because you once were in an uncomfortable position, but now you became comfortable because, for example, your tolerance just went up.
I like that. You know what it is? It's being comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't do that on a daily basis. If you work at a bank 9 to 5, as an example, right, your comfortability is in those four walls and those numbers that you do, or whatever the case that it is, go beyond it. If you don't usually talk about this or you don't do this at whatever job, go beyond it. Push yourself in the uncomfortable. Make yourself grow as a person, because that's what the beauty of life is. Flourish, show it. You can. And once again, I think I really want to connect to the people that if you feel like you're not there and you're not growing as a person, there's always room for growth. It may be frustrating to feel it or not be able to find it, but you can. But just start with the questions to ask yourself why. What makes me happy and what am I good at?
You also have to be intentional too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Purpose. Move with purpose.
Yeah. Because you can put yourself in very uncomfortable situations for no reason and not grow.
To be very honest with you, my best friends in my entire world were the people where I was really down and everyone around me was saying to me, it's okay, just pick back yourself up and go. But it was the 2 or 3 friends that I had that were like, no, you put yourself in this situation.
Think about it.
And it was kind of like tough love. I was like, okay.
What the heck?
And I was upset. I was definitely upset. I can even think of that individual right now. But but that's character development. That's character growth,
Yeah.
right? And that's the only way your character is going to grow in life. You need to sometimes hear that, but I like to say, I always like to think, take that sadness or anger, whatever that person said to you, and use that and harness as motivation. Use as motivation to say, you know what? No, I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to be a failure. I'm going to do this instead. And here's what I'm going to do it.
Well, other than that, any final questions, comments, concerns before I ask my final 2 questions?
Final 2?
Yeah.
I don't even know if I have any more. I just want to hear the final 2. Where are they?
2?
Yeah.
All right. Ask everyone this, Daniel.
Okay.
First one. If you could go back in time to speak to your younger self, younger Daniel,
okay,
what would be one piece of advice you would give him?
Oh, man. You really like all those video games too much. That's what I would say to myself. One thing I could say to myself.
One thing, yeah. Only one.
Everything has a purpose. And everything you're doing is okay. Trust in it. That's it. Trust in it. Believe in yourself. Everything you're doing and every person around you, doesn't matter what point of life that you're in or what struggle you're going through, is there for a reason. Embrace them.
Final question. You ready?
I'm ready.
What is your definition of success?
Love that question. I think that the definition of success is literally achieving the highest level of happiness, or achieving or doing something, whatever creates the highest level of happiness in your life. That to me is success. We hear it countless times. People have all the money in the world, all the cars, the biggest houses, the most luxurious lifestyles, but yet they're so unhappy. Does that really build it? And that takes away time. You can always buy more, but you can never buy back time.
Yeah.
So I think when you become living in the moment, everything I said, and just being happy, you appreciate and you value your time way more. And so every moment, every time, and every stride you go through life just feels way more rewarding. So to me, success is when you achieve the highest level of happiness and whatever you define that as in your life.
And creating the life that brings you joy.
Absolutely. Whatever makes you happy. Thank you, Vincent. That was amazing. I loved it. This is my first podcast ever. So thank you for having me. You always talk about it, but just so everyone can know, and I'm curious myself, does your alignment and definition of success align the same way? To you? Yeah. How do you see it? Right now, on this day, despite what you said before in the previous podcast, right now in this moment.
What is my definition of success?
Yeah.
It always changes, but.
Okay. That's good.
It always changes. Every season of life has a different one. But I would say right now, designing and creating the life I want that brings me the most amount of time and joy, while also having a purpose in life.
Yeah.
Being fulfilling. Alongside with the financial aspect of being financially independent.
I like that.
I don't know. That was kind of 3 things in one, but yeah.
No, you're just enjoying for what things come to you.
Yeah.
I think that's precious. So to be proud of yourself for that. But I think the beauty of that is now you've now inspired a lot of other people. You should be proud of yourself for that. So
thank you, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun.
Anything else you want to say, or any shout outs or anything?
For the dawn of time, I always will give a shout out to this. I just want to shout out to my family, especially my mom and my dad. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for all that you do. Me and my sister appreciate you. We love you so much. And for everyone else, please just hug your mom and dad today. because they do so much on a daily basis, and they made me become the man that I am today. I'm very proud of them. And shout out to all my first responders, paramedics that I work with, that are actually working right now, probably on a night shift. Thank you for what you do. You guys, I know we hear this all the time, that we get, thanks, and we're very grateful of that. But seriously, you guys are my best support, my biggest friends. So I'm very grateful for you and for everyone for that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. To those who have tuned in and stayed to the very end, we appreciate you for listening in today, and we hope that you learned something new. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Otherwise, until then, my friends, take care.